Well, hello everyone. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Welcome to the webinar on the FME Hackathon 2020 and judging. Sorry,
Yep.
did I jump in front of anybody else who wanted to say, introduce
No,
us?
I keep staring at Dale's background.
So my name is Mark Island. I'm one of your presenters today, and with me is my colleague Jen.
Yep.
Hi Jen,
So,
Map Girl on Twitter.
yep.
And in the background, we have Stephanie, who's keeping us all organized and keeping us all in line.
Yeah,
And
I'll also
Dale.
help with any Q&A in the background. So if anyone has any comments or anything they want to chat in during the webinar, just use that GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll kind of be watching that as we go.
And we also have Dale Lutz, our co-founder at SAFE, who promised not to say anything unless he was spoken to. So permission to speak granted, Dale. You can say hi.
Thank you. Yes, like a good young child. I'm just sort of bubbling around in the background today and looking forward to seeing. I know at least one of these projects sort of involves me, and I'm a little bit nervous to see why.
In fact, you've got a background bubbling around you as well on your webcam. So
yes, I'm playing with a toy called So anyway, there's my little advertisement for that. But anyway, thanks everybody that's tuned in, and thanks all that participated. And boy, this almost reminds me of the old FME Idol days, Mark, where you were doing your Simon Cowell imitation.
That's right. And Dimitri was a Russian judge, and yeah.
We used to have some fun.
Yeah. So but we're going to have some fun today as well. Sorry, Stephanie, I didn't mean to talk over you.
Oh, no, I was just saying we could bring back FME Idol. If that's something you want to see, let us know in the chat. And we can make that happen.
It had its own logo even.
It did, yeah. That was pretty much, if anyone didn't realize what that was a live version of a hackathon that we did at our user conferences. And I think one time we even had a special build of FME where the canvas was disabled and you had to try and build a workspace without seeing what you were doing, which was pretty fun. Pretty interesting.
I don't really know what to say about that. How would you even do that?
Oh, you'll find
anyway,
out, Jen.
luckily, everyone in the hackathon got to see their canvas in FME. So yeah, we've got 4 projects we're going to run through today. The first one is connecting with colleagues. Have we got a slide about? Yeah, we've got a slide about the whole idea of connection. The first project, connecting with colleagues. I'll be presenting that. Then Jen, you're presenting the next project.
Yep, which is a predictive analysis of COVID-19 cases and using FME to do that.
The third one I'll do, we'll switch back to me, that's Applications Connection Finder. That's connecting different components of FME that are operating together. And then the final project.
The last one is the one with Dale's head involved. So if you're interested in seeing what one contestant did with Don and Dale, then stay tuned to the end.
Excellent. And then we'll just wrap things up at the end and tell you how to vote. Voting's open for quite a while, but and any Q&A as well, any questions you've got about the project, any feedback you've got about this sort of event that we're doing, trying to reach out to our users and try and connect them together ourselves. So any feedback about that is great. And yeah, 2020 has been pretty rough for everyone. I think it's pretty safe to say. It's not turned out the way most people were expecting. So, and I think one of the things we've definitely learned at SAFE is that staying connected to those around us is really important to keep us going. So we thought, hey, we're going to do a hackathon. Let's have a theme on connections. Where can FME make connections? How can we connect users, connect bits of technology, connect data together? And we just threw that idea out there and said, hey, interpret it however you like. And so we've got a range of different projects that they're really interesting to see how people interpret that theme.
Yeah, and I would say all of our projects as well did meet that theme in some way, like very different ways, but they all had a theme of connections in their projects. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, it was great.
I'll
Okay.
mention too, please. Sorry, Mark. I was just going to say, if any of the people who submitted their projects are tuning in, chat with us as well as we're doing the presentation. If you have anything you want to say about it or share it out, let us know there. We're really proud to be representing your work. So with that, I'm going to turn off my camera and you guys can take it away.
Okay. I guess the other thing as well, I hope we do it justice, because it is hard to present other people's projects. If you didn't create it, it can be hard to make sure that you get everything across to everyone. So apologies if we don't quite do that for your project.
The air is a bit thin where I am, so I'm going to shut off my camera as well.
Okay, I'm going to turn mine off as well, because I don't think you need to see me all the way through.
Okay.
So yeah, so when we do get around to judging, some of the criteria to consider: the extent to which the project creates connections, consider the use of FME and the range of functionality that have been used inside the FME, and the originality of the idea. There's a word I can't think of that means originality, the inspiration, the idea itself. How good was the idea? How well does it match connections? And how well does it use FME? So keep those things in mind as we're presenting through these projects.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we start with, we should mention the prizes. Do you want to do that, Jen?
Sure. So we did mention when we launched the hackathon some of the prizes. So what we're going to do is make a donation to the World Federation for Mental Health for every participant that submitted a project for the hackathon. So I think when we're announcing the winners, we'll be letting everybody know what donations were made. And as well for each of the winners, so there's going to be 2 winning teams, one that will win the People's Choice Award, which is what everyone on this webinar is going to be voting on. And then there's also going to be a Safe Choice Award. So we're going to be like evaluating the projects, seeing how we think it best meets the theme of connections and uses FME functionality, etc. So each team that wins will be making a $500 donation to a charity of the winning team's choice. So they can choose anything that's important to them, and we'll be making a donation. And then the winners will also receive an FME swag pack. So I was told just before the webinar that I think this is going to be some FME socks and an FME pin. So I know the FME socks are always really popular. We had them at the UC last year, and then people were taking pictures and putting them on Twitter. Like, I would say even sometimes up till now, people are taking pictures of their FME socks. So,
there's even a Twitter channel. Yes, there is. You mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah, Safe Sockwear, I think. Yes, I don't know if that Twitter account is still active, but yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to start, Mark?
Yeah, sure. I'll just say that there are a couple of questions that came in. One of them was, will we be recording this? Absolutely, and we'll share that recording with you. We'll do that for sure. And are the samples, the project's going to be released afterwards? I think so, yes. Well, we're going to suggest that anyone who submitted a project maybe posts it to our FME community in the hackathon group that we had there, and share your work there. I don't want to share it for you just in case, but if you want to do that, that'd be great. Yep. Okay, so on to the first project, and it's a project by Nick at Vicria, and it's a great project that demonstrates a small workspace can produce really fun and useful results, and it's all about human connections in this sort of COVID era. So next slide, Jen, since you're in control. So yeah, so working at home can be lonely, but then so can working in an empty office. You might remember Jen produced an app to match up Safe staff for a weekly online chat because we're all working at home, but other people are still working in the office, but often that's lonely as well because there's not many people working in the office now. I think we have a capacity at Safe of something like 5 or 8 people at any one time. So how can you see your friends and colleagues if you're at the office? Well, the idea here is very simple. You use augmented reality to project your colleagues into where they would normally exist in the building. So here's a very simple workspace. Every person there is getting an instance of a custom transformer. So that's a little green part there. And within that custom transformer, which you'll see at the bottom, what they're doing is they're creating a vertical feature with the picture of that person attached as a texture. And so you can see in that custom transformer, they're creating vertices, making it into 3D, extruding it, reading the texture and adding it on with the appearance styler. And that's a very straightforward thing to do with 3D elements in FME, is to add a surface texture. And in this case, it's a photograph of a person, but in other cases, you might attach regular textures. So yeah, and then it gets written out, as you mentioned, with the AR writer as well, because obviously you want to be able to see these people in the office. So that's what they use. So yeah, so let's do the next slide, Jen, and hit the run button on this video that was submitted. So what would I see if I wandered around the Vicaria office with my phone and the FME AR app? I would basically see this. I would see all of the people sitting or standing in their regular places. So you can see the folk there. What I really love about this is how the photos are in sort of an office pose to make it more realistic. Like I'm standing like around a water cooler.
Yeah.
It's not just, and I love the person sitting on the chair who looks like they've got the phone in their hand. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And everyone looks really happy as well in it. Happy that they're in the office.
So even when you're working in the office by yourself, you can just turn around and wave your phone, and there are your colleagues. And I do like, to summarize this project, I do like how it helps keep connections in a simple way. I mean, even if I'm working at home, I could take, say, the model of Dale that might be coming up, and I could project it into my home office and have Dale or Jen or any of my colleagues or friends or whatever sitting around and project it into my office to keep me company. I love how it uses that AR technology. I love, though, how it's really could be expanded with a bit more content. For example, we could say add a speech balloon above the head of each person, or a little status bar to say I'm working at home, or I'm off on vacation, or phone me on this number, to the point that it really could be a full Office directory if you really wanted to build that into that as well. And you could even make it into use virtual reality instead of augmented, and sort of make it like an emergency response tool, so you could see if there was an emergency, you could see people in the office where they sit and what they look like and that sort of thing. So yeah, so it's a fairly basic, straightforward project, but it's one that's done really well and has a lot of potential in my mind. And it really, again, can help us connect with our colleagues and friends, even though we can't be with them. So yeah, great project.
Okay. So our second project here is one from Brazil. So we had a team called Geo Insights Rio, which was Deborah, Rodrigo, and Victor, and they got together to use FME to try and do a predictive analysis of COVID-19 cases in Rio de Janeiro. And they were splitting the city up by regional education coordinators. So their reason or rationale for doing this, I think at the time they were working on this project in August, Brazil was the sort of second highest country in the world in terms of number of cases. So I think at the end of August, they had coming close to 4 million cases registered. So in the city of Rio de Janeiro, they had just over 90,000 cases and just under 10,000 deaths, according to the people who are collecting the data on that. And what they also found for Rio is that the city was making the data available for download on where the cases of COVID-19 were, and including a zip code and neighborhood with that data, which I haven't really seen many other places doing, and I think it was the only city in Brazil that was doing that. So they were planning to take that data as the starting point for their analysis. And they actually were combining this with some work that they were planning to do in 2020, but because of COVID and quarantine and everything, that kind of got pushed aside. So they all use FME at their job. So what they were planning on doing is using R, which I think is like a data science package library, and using that with FME to achieve a predictive model for telecom fiber network expansion. But as I mentioned, due to the pandemic, this changed their work focuses. So they decided to sort of apply what they were going to be doing with that predictive modeling and try and use that with COVID-19 instead. And then as one of their project members works as a geography teacher in a school, their idea was that they should use their regional education areas and try and use that for their predictive analysis. So their regional education coordinators are responsible for sort of strategic planning for education. So they'll be the ones responsible for coming up with a safe return to classes plan. So they were using those areas to try and predict how COVID would be in those areas so that then they could potentially use that data when they're trying to decide when or if they should return to classes. So they used FME and R to do this. It's quite a big workspace. So I'll try and show you that. So you can see the workspace at the bottom. They sent a screenshot of this through. It's a really big one, but it's doing a lot of things in here. So they started off using FME to download the COVID-19 case data. So I've got a little screenshot of this in the top right hand corner of this slide. So you can see that what they're actually doing here is using the HTTP caller to download that data. So if you have a data download link, you can put that inside the HTTP caller. You can set it to save to file, and then they've just added a feature reader after that so that they can pick up the data that's been downloaded and then read it in whatever format it is. So in this case, all of the COVID-19 case data was provided as a CSV. So you can see them reading in that here. So once they've got their COVID-19 case data, they also needed the census data, which they've downloaded. They also will have data for the different areas or regions for the education regions. And then they're doing a lot of data cleansing and preparation. So a lot of these bookmarks that you see at the bottom, sort of from the middle and the left-hand side, are doing data preparation and cleansing. So this workspace is doing some geocoding. So obviously as the COVID-19 case data is provided as a CSV with the neighborhoods and postcodes, they need to geocode that data so they can plot it spatially. Now they're also dealing with the census data, so they're trying to just pull out all of the data that is things like the number of households and the population, the average income, and they're also working out which buildings have access to water and sewage as well. And then they're correcting the neighborhood names. So I think maybe there's some slight differences between the neighborhood names given in the COVID-19 case data compared to the neighborhood names in the census data. So they're cleaning that up, creating some dates for their predictive analysis, and then making sure all of this data is sort of cut into those education regions. And then what they're also doing as well is doing some calculations. So they use the expression evaluator transformer to work out the death rate, which is the number of deaths per population in these areas, the fatality rate, so the percentage number of deaths versus cases of COVID-19, and the incidence rate, which is the number of cases per population in Rio. So this is what their outcome was for this project. So after processing all of that data, doing their predictive modeling, they wanted to output this to a dashboard so that you could click on here and you'd be able to see each educational region, and then be able to see the predicted number of deaths and the predicted cases, which you can see on the little pop-up here for the educational regions. So I guess all of the predictive analysis was done using R inside the R caller. So we do have a Knowledge Center article. If you know how to use R and you wanted to integrate that with FME, we have some basic tutorials on how you can get started with that. But I think what they were using for the predictive model was a random forest model. I think that's the right name of it. So basically I was trying to look up what this actually meant, and I'm probably going to butcher this description of what it is, but it's kind of like a decision tree. So I think it's one of those flow charts where the input parameters are all of the census data. So it probably starts off at the top of the decision tree with potentially like all of the population of one of these educational areas, and it's kind of flowing down a decision tree. So maybe the first question would be like, is there water and sewage access at this property? And then that would split the data up, and then maybe the next level would be related to the population density, and then maybe split it further. So it does a lot of random decision trees, and then kind of takes the average output at the end of it, I think, to do the predicted deaths and the predicted cases of COVID. So then I think they're running this and updating it every day. Every day I've looked at the dashboard, the date of update has been updated. So this would potentially be a good use of something like FME Server. I don't know if that's how they're doing it, just to schedule those updates to run nightly, because there's a lot of data they're processing. So this isn't a quick workspace to run. And then just updating that in ArcGIS Online. They're just using an ArcGIS Online writer to get everything into this dashboard. So I did like this project. It's got a really big workspace. It's doing some cool things with the COVID data. And I think their thing of matching this to the theme of connections was that sort of COVID-19 spreading is basically making like a big connection across the world, kind of like how a network would be what they wanted to do originally. And the use of R as well. I haven't seen many people use R, so it's cool to be able to see that you could start to do these kind of things with FME. One thing I would like to see in this dashboard, you can see the predicted cases and the predicted deaths for this date. I think they've predicted it for up to 31 days in advance. It would be cool to see what the actual number of cases were on this day, to sort of give an accuracy level to see how well their model performed. So I think for the project in its current state, they had kind of not stressed the model too much, but going forwards, they were going to be going a bit deeper and trying to sort of find the best parameter configuration to enhance the data coming out in this dashboard. And then not content with just creating a dashboard in ArcGIS Online, they also used FME AR. So if I play this video, you can see, I think they had some help from Dimitri, and I think he's done something similar. So you can kind of see and identify local mountains. But what GeoInsights Rio did is that they found all of the COVID deaths within a kilometer of wherever you are with this app. And then as you pan around, you can see like where those deaths occurred and how far away from you they were. So just an interesting way of visualizing the data in two completely different ways, which I quite liked.
Yeah, that's an incredible visualization. I love that. Yeah. And you said it was divided by educational district?
Yeah, so I think you can see on here, I guess these are all the different educational regions.
School zones, I guess.
Yeah, I guess like school districts here.
Yeah,
so,
that's pretty good, because here all the kids are going back to school and we get the numbers, but we don't get them divided by school districts. So we don't know if a school actually has cases in its area or not, because it's got this overlap. So
yeah.
See that.
And I guess one thing as well that would be cool is with their AR app is that if they didn't use deaths, if you use sort of like active cases at the time, so you took out recovered people, it would be kind of cool as you're walking around, you could maybe see where like a hotspot is and then walk the other way. I think that would be a cool adaptation.
Yeah, you could put a sort of buffer around each case general area, I guess, because you don't know. But that's neat.
You don't. Yeah.
Did you want to say anything, Dale, if you're still online? We're sort of halfway through what we were going to show today, so.
I'm just very impressed with what I'm seeing, and the different applications of tech that's been floating around, but applying it, the one with the people in the office kind of made me miss the safe office and seeing all of you on a regular basis. And then this one, I think, interesting to see the tech used for something that's very current and appropriate and actually in the news around here, because as Mark was saying, the schools are like literally today, I think, is the first day of real classes for many of my nieces and nephews and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, let's go on to the next project. This project is by FME users at Ordina, if I pronounced the name correctly. They're also in the Netherlands. The first one I presented was as well. And this one, it shows how it's possible to interpret a hackathon challenge differently, because it's about connecting FME workspaces rather than connecting people or data. And the project revolves around the fact that workspaces and custom transformers, they rarely operate in isolation. They're usually part of a project, if not several projects. So for example, if I edit a custom transformer, to test it, I need to know where that transformer is used. I can't just set that transformer up and test it and run it and say, oh, well, that's okay. Really, I should be checking where that's used and if that still works as well. And the same thing if I edit a workspace, I need to know if it's used in a sequence of workspaces or not, or whether it's a standalone thing. So that's where the connections come in with this project. And the idea is to find the connections between workspaces that are called from other workspaces, and also to find the connections between custom transformers that are called from other workspaces as well. So basically, it's an analysis project here that we're picking all our workspaces, picking all our custom transformers, and trying to find the connections between them to make sure that we're testing everything properly when we make a change. And this is what the workspace looks like, and it powers the whole process. As you can see, it looks fairly straightforward here. Obviously, it's going to be a bit more complicated than that. It's divided into 4 custom transformers. So we'll look at each of those transformers in turn and what they do. So step 1, the first transformer is retrieve the workspaces from the FME server. And it shows how the project works on an enterprise level. It's not just searching your hard drive, it's actually getting the workspaces from FME server. If you didn't use server, then you could just skip that step. But yeah, they're using server here, and they're using the FME server API, which is really great. And there's 4 main steps in that custom transformer. They're sending the username and password to get a token, just to make it easier to get the responses through the API. What they do is they send a call to get a list of the repositories. So you can see that it's the server /FME rest /v3 /repositories, and that just comes back with a list of repositories. And these are all sent off with HTTP callers, just as in Jen's previous project. They're doing the same thing here. They're getting a list of workspaces in that repository. So once you know the repository, then you can plug the name of the repository into the next command, which gets a list of the workspaces and custom transformers in that repository. And once you've got a list of those workspaces and transformers, then you can actually retrieve them, and that's what the next command does. So it's a server /repository name, items, and the workspace, and it retrieves that as a file. And just like in Jen's previous project, the HTTP call is used to write that file to a local directory. So that's step 1, getting hold of the workspaces. Step 2 reads the contents of the workspaces and transformers. It's a separate custom transformer. Really, it's making use of the FME feature reader transformer again. But this time, instead of sort of reading data, it's actually reading the contents of the workspace using the FMW workspace format, which is a very great, very underused, in my opinion, format that's great for projects like this. I had one before for analyzing a workspace of best practice, and you can just dive straight into the workspace with this reader and pull out information about what feature types it has, what transformers it has, and so on. Okay, so step 3, now we're looking at the workspace and trying to find FME job submitter transformers. Why are we looking for that? Well, that means that this workspace is calling another workspace. So what we're doing is getting a list of which workspaces are connected here. How does that work? Well, remember I said that the FMW reader retrieves a list of transformers, And all they're doing here is testing, does transformer type equal FME server job submitter? And if it is, then it pulls out the workspace name and it returns that workspace as an ID. So it says, okay, you're reading workspace X, and this workspace runs workspace A, B, and C in turn. And so that's what they're trying to find there. And the final step is finding related custom transformers. Again, we've already got the information from step 2, which transformers exist inside that workspace. So really, we just need to do some more test, again, using the test filter transformer. So they're testing, is it a custom transformer that's embedded, in which case the transformer type is called subdocument transformer. If it wasn't embedded and it was linked, I think it would be called linked transformer. And then once you've done that, they match it up to a list of transformers that's been read from the server. So you say, well, let's take this transformer that we know is inside this workspace and see if we can find a match for it on the server, just to confirm that that is the workspace that it's using. And again, we're sending back the IDs and the information about that. Yeah, so really, this is a fantastic project. If I dare say it, it reveals a bit of a gap in FME functionality. It will be great if we had the capability to search and make connections between workspaces ourselves, but we don't. But we did implement the FMW reader exactly for this reason, to give users the opportunity to scan their workspaces to find out what's going on in there. And it makes excellent use of that capability. Like the other project I presented, I think this one is really well built, but also, again, it's got a lot of potential. I mean, you could add, I don't think at the moment there's any output to this. It just finds the information and you can look at it within FME, but it will be really easy to add a HTML writer to the workspace and generate reports and run it from server and have those reports pop up automatically. Secondly, it's got the potential to expand to other areas, not necessarily all FME ones. It could potentially find workspaces called from other applications like ArcGIS. Maybe it could find workspaces used in server automations. Maybe it could even look for things like the system caller or the R caller transformer to say, oh, look, I'm calling R from this, and maybe we need to check that. Or maybe if I change my R script, I can find out which workspaces make use of that and things like that. So overall, again, this is a fantastic proof of concept, I think, but the potential is quite incredible. Maybe it's not changing the world like the COVID analysis, but it's solving a problem that most FME authors will appreciate, I think. And for that, I think it's a fantastic project. So yeah, well done, folks. This is a great one.
I think that would be a nice one as well, not just to upload to the hackathon group on our community, but as well as like uploading to the FME hub, because I think there's definitely probably quite a few people that would make use of something like that.
I think so. Yeah, I think it would be fantastic. You could even make it into a web service, I guess, and say, upload a zip file of all your workspaces and transformers, and we'll tell you which ones are connected to which.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of potential there. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think as well, the workspaces used in server automations, I think we have a lot of people asking for things like that because they'll build all these automations and it's really hard to go through and find them all. Like if you update a workspace or even other things like trying to find the email triggers or email actions, things like that. So yeah, this is a good one.
It's fantastic. And we've got Dale on board today, so he's listening to this and probably already coming up with ideas of what we can do in FME to help this sort of functionality as well.
It definitely highlights a shortcoming, and I'm pretty amazed by the possibilities here. So yes, that's very insightful.
Awesome. So I think we've got one more project to present.
Yeah. Dale, are you ready for this?
A little bit nervous.
Yeah, so this one is our last project of today. So this project was designed so that you can meet Dale, Dawn, and the FME Lizard virtually. So this was done by SRG, who is one of our partners in India. So the reasoning behind this one, I guess, on the theme of connections, with everybody having to social distance, wearing masks, working from home. And I guess the one thing they said, a lot of FME users around the world are heartbroken because we had to postpone the FME user conference until August next year. So there's a lot of sad, lonely FME users around the world. So the idea here was to use our FME AR app to virtually bring the co-founders of Safe Software and the FME Lizard to everyone's place, anytime, anywhere. So you can always hang out with Don and Dale whenever you want. So this is not an accurate depiction of what Dale looks like or Don, but what SRG basically did was download some 3D models from the internet. So you can go on Sketchfab and he found this bot 3D model, which you can see in the top left corner. And then on another site was able to download this 3D model of a lizard. So I think then downloading both of those in 3D formats and then bringing them into SketchUp Pro just to do some editing. You can see how they come originally, like the lizard is just one plain color and the little bot thing is all white. So then they've been made into more like safe FME color schemes, and then adding in the faces of Dale and Dawn in the robot face thing.
Presumably there were no 3D models of Arnold Schwarzenegger available.
Maybe you should ask for the project to get redone, make you look like way more scary.
Athletic.
I don't know. Yeah.
Buff is a term I would like to use.
Oh, okay. Dale wants to be more buff. So project enhancements, there we go. So yeah, so those were exported as SketchUp files, which were then read into FME. So this, I think, is the most basic workspace we've had submitted for the hackathon, which isn't always a bad thing, makes it really easy to understand what's going on here. So I think we support and read in a variety of 3D formats. So if you have your 3D format basically, or 3D data model ready to go, you can basically just read that in, which is being done here, reading in that Trimble SketchUp file. And then if it's already in 3D, you can basically write it straight out to FME AR, which is what the writer here is on the right-hand side. And then the solution, I'll play the video of Dale and Dawn in India.
Is that the FME Lizard model there? So this is the FME AR app, I assume. And I
Running
see
an Android.
yeah, I see the pattern there. I see a little pattern on the surface, the same pattern that was on the first project, the Vicria project.
There's Don and I bringing joy to everyone around the world. It's so heartwarming.
That's fantastic.
We're at least bigger than the lizard wizard that we used to have.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I like that. I think you could sort of expand that. You could have a selection of different bodies and the ability to paste your face on all of them. And
Ooh, that would be a good FME server app.
it would, yeah. And then
Choose your body and upload your face.
Yeah, you have a slider. You have a buffness parameter on the slider. And you say how buff you want to be. Yeah, that'd work. I like that.
I was also thinking it would be cool I don't know whether this is a possibility with the AR or not, but even with the connecting with colleagues workspace before, like if you could add sound bites. So if you got close to them in AR, like it could say like a catchphrase or something that they normally say. So it feels like you're really with them. That would be cool.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah.
So Jen, would it be me asking you something about Great Britain?
Yes. Although I guess since working from home, I've kind of avoided that because I don't bump into you anymore. So that's one benefit. Yeah, and then the other thing I was thinking as well, I mean, this would be completely changing the project, but I think this is kind of an inspiration for that, is when we were on World Tour last year, we were demonstrating the gaming engines. So I think Dimitri had built like a house and we were using this gaming engine to walk around, and I think there were people in the house, other people in the house.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool if you could sort of go one step further and build like a virtual user conference kind of, but it would be a game. So you'd have to like log in and then you could walk around. I thought that would be a cool idea, but definitely a lot harder than
that would be great.
You need avatars, but you're right. The way we did it when we showed that on World Tour last year, I think Trent was with us and we had him hiding in the bathroom actually. So as you're wandering through the house, you'd open the door to the bathroom. Trent was in there. So
yeah. So maybe we should get like Dimitri and SRG to team up. If there isn't a vaccine out by next August, they could make us a gaming virtual conference kind of way, or just a way to hang out with other FME users.
Yeah. That would be that'd be pretty incredible.
I wonder if anybody is old enough to remember something called Second Life, which was going to change our worlds. Do you remember that, any of you?
I do, yes. I do remember the name. I don't know if it's still going.
Jen's too young, but at the time, companies were actually paying money to build like villages in there and having people visit them and stuff. But you'd kind of wander around in this virtual space, and it feels like SRG has reminded us of Second Life here.
A bit, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did like this project. It actually made me laugh as I was like watching it. It was entertaining and it like makes you feel good, which is a nice thing during these times. So.
Absolutely. And you could merge that with the first project to instead of your colleagues, you can have the Dale and Don models wandering around your office, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty much it. Those are the projects we received. Yeah, we've got a form. We'll give you the URL in a moment to pick your favorite project. Here's an important thing to consider. Again, I think we've had this slide, but the extent to which the projects create connections, the use of FME, the range of functionality, the originality of the project as well, how useful it is, how fun it is, all of those criteria. Have a think of those while you're judging and picking your favorites, although I'm sure you probably picked one already after going through all of those. So yeah, so is the form on the next slide, Jen?
Well, I was hoping Steph would be chatting it out. It's on the comments of one of the slides. Yeah, and I guess we can share it on the Hackathon community page as well as on Twitter as well. So you don't have to decide right now. Voting is open.
Yes,
I believe for just over a week. I can't remember the date exactly, but
yes, when we put the terms and conditions together, for some reason we decided voting period was going to be up until the 22nd of September. I'm not sure why we said that, but there's going to be a bit of a wait, I'm afraid.
So all the ballots can arrive by mail, Mark.
That must be what. Yes. So yeah, please do vote. I was going to say vote early and vote often, but don't vote often. That would do vote. And
I'm pretty sure as well in the terms and conditions you can't vote more than once for the same project.
Absolutely. So, yes.
Yeah.
But
or if you do, it won't be counted.
Yeah.
Get your friends and relatives.
You could do that. But encourage other FME users to vote for sure, because they know what they're seeing and they know the quality of the FME project. So yeah, and we'll be doing the same at SAFE. I'll share this video around at SAFE and people can check out the projects and vote for which ones they think they like, and that will win the Safe Choice Award. So 2 awards up for grabs there.
Yeah. And I guess we'll be presenting the winners, should be fairly quick after voting closes. So probably by the end of next week, we should be able to get
something around,
out.
or just a week after maybe, but
yeah,
sure. We have to follow the terms and conditions, having specified them. So hey, what the heck? Yeah. So Stephanie put this slide in here, and I think this is great. Do you want more hackathons or contests? Please fill out the survey at the end of the webinar and share your ideas and let us know what's important to you. I mean, personally, for me, that's one of the things I get involved in quite a lot, is sort of outreach to our community and finding things for you to do that are both fun and educational. And we have the weekly FME quiz on the community. We have a WhatsApp Wednesday post. We have a question of the week on Friday. So there is literally loads and loads of things going on the FME community that are of interest to users and help you learn things. And if there's anything that you really would like to see, if you want to see the quiz come back or any other things like that, please do fill out the survey at the end of the webinar, share your ideas, let us know what works for you, what you'd like to see us do on that community. So yeah.
I guess the other thing as well, like relating to hackathons, we for a couple of years we did one around December, like coming up to the holidays, which was in a slightly different format. So then it was pretty much all done through the community. This time we decided to try it in the summer because it was around the time of the UC. So we did get four submissions in total, which is lower than what we would get around December. So as well, if you would like the idea of doing a hackathon, but you find like December is a better time of year, or just let us know that feedback too. So we want to be able to like engage our FME users the best we can. So if this isn't working for you, let us know the best way that we can run a hackathon for you guys if you do want to do more hackathons.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think that's pretty much as done for today. Do we have a final slide? We do.
Yeah, maybe before you guys get to that, I was wondering, just because sometimes we have some people join on late, would you mind flicking to like the first 2 presentations again and maybe just showing a couple pictures and videos just to remind people maybe who joined late what those projects were?
Sure, we can quickly do that. I mean, we can also say thank you if you did arrive on and you've seen these and you want to leave, that's okay, and thank you for joining. But yes, very quickly we'll just run through these first couple of projects again. This one was from Bikria in the Netherlands, about working in the office when everyone else is working at home and you're pretty much by yourself in the office. How can you make it less lonely? Well, you get the AR writer and you get your different colleagues and you get their photos in an office-like pose and you put them around the office where they would normally be. So if you wandered around the office looking through the FME AR app, you would see your colleagues there. And again, that's one of the things that's got great potential, because you can make it almost like an office directory. You could have a little status above everyone saying hi, or I'm off on vacation, or something like that. And yeah, so that was a pretty nice project.
Oh my gosh, there we go. So yep, so the second project was from Brazil. So they were taking a lot of the COVID data and census data for Rio de Janeiro and processing that in FME to be able to feed it into a predictive model using the R caller and using R. So what they were hoping to do was try and predict the number of COVID cases and the COVID deaths in different educational regions around the city over the next 31 days to try and help with planning the safe return back to schools. So they created this dashboard in Arctis Online, and then also created an FME AR app that just showed within a kilometer of where you are with the app, how many deaths had been around you.
Yeah. 3 out of 4 projects today use the AR app, which shows, I think, what's going on, what people are thinking are important, and what they wanted to try out, and a lot of them as well using the HTTP caller to make connections to web services. So,
Yep.
Did you want me to run through this one as well, or?
Yeah, I think just quickly summarize them.
Yeah, quick summary. So this one was all of your different FME components that are interconnected, and the idea is to try and find what those connections are. So does this workspace run another workspace? Does this workspace have a custom transformer in it? And by making those connections, we can say, well, if I need to edit this custom transformer, well, I'll know which workspaces could possibly be affected by those edits because I know which ones are connected. So you're creating a network of FME workspace component connections, I guess we can say.
Okay, and then the last project was taking some 3D models, putting them into the FME AR app so that you could meet Dale and Don and the FME Lizard wherever you are, whenever you are, anywhere you want, basically. You can open that FME AR project and the app on your phone, and then you can hang out with Don and Dale.
I think, is this like DDAAS, Dale and Don as a service?
Could be. I think there'd be demand for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
So can I just jump in here and just thank all of the people that submitted and took part. It's a busy time. These were all things that people did outside of their normal work, and it's humbling and flattering in many ways that people would want to spend their time using FME for other things or in addition to their normal daily efforts. And so it's great to see that. Thank you so much. You inspire us, and just really, really on behalf of the team, want to thank you for your love of the work we do. It helps us be motivated every day to come to work. So thanks so much. Yeah,
totally got to echo that. Thank you for everyone who put the effort in to sign up and to submit a project. It's fantastic, and we love seeing this, and it helps show us where we can improve FME, and it helps us share the functionality among all our users, and yeah, it's just superb. So thank you, and thank you for everyone who's attending and going to vote.
Yep, and I guess just in case you missed the link to sign up, we'll be putting it in the community group and on Twitter as well, I imagine.
Absolutely,
so,
we'll push that out there quite a bit, I think, for the next while. So, yeah. Okay, well, I guess one last thank you, and thank you to everyone, to Stephanie and Jen and Dale for being part of the webinar today. Thank you for attending, everyone, and with that, we'll say goodbye and turn the webinar off. So go vote. Thanks.
Right. Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.